You wake up in the middle of the night. There is a sharp, throbbing pain in the back of your jaw. You have a severe toothache. Your immediate reaction is to reach for your smartphone. You book an emergency appointment with your local dentist for the very next morning. You might completely dread sitting under those incredibly bright clinical lights. You might absolutely hate the high-pitched whining sound of the modern dental drill, but you know with absolute certainty that the pain will be fixed. You take this modern medical luxury completely for granted. Why wouldn't you? But the real answer to your evolutionary past is much stranger. What exactly did you do before modern medicine, sterile drills, and synthetic anesthetics even existed? You probably picture your ancient ancestors living in absolute agony. You imagine them wandering around with rotting mouths, losing all their teeth by the age of 30, and eventually dying from simple infections. You assume your modern teeth are the absolute pinnacle of human health, but you are completely, fundamentally wrong. For the vast majority of your existence on this planet, your ancestors actually had significantly better teeth than you do right now. They had perfectly straight, incredibly strong teeth. They had massive wide jaws that fit every single tooth perfectly, and they had almost zero cavities. How is that even biologically possible? To understand this, you need to step back in time about 15,000 years. You are a hunter-gatherer navigating the wild, untamed landscapes of the Pleistocene epoch. You do not have toothbrushes. You do not have mint-flavored fluoride toothpaste. You do not have dental floss. But you also do not have processed sugar. Your daily diet consists of tough, fibrous wild plants, thick roots, raw nuts, and heavily chewed meat. You are eating food that aggressively fights back. This intense daily mechanical loading did something incredible to your biology. Evolutionary biologist Daniel Lieberman has spent his entire career studying the human head. He discovered that bones are not just static, dead structures inside your body. They are highly active living tissues that constantly respond to mechanical stress. When your ancient ancestors chewed tough, unprocessed food for hours every single day, the heavy mechanical force actually triggered their jawbones to grow wider and stronger. Think of it like lifting heavy weights at the gym, but exclusively for your face. Because your ancient jaw grew so incredibly wide, there was plenty of open space for every single tooth to drop in perfectly straight. You never needed expensive metal braces. You never needed painful wisdom teeth extractions. Your wisdom teeth, your third molars, simply grew in flawlessly and worked exactly as they were supposed to. Your mouth was a perfectly engineered, highly efficient grinding machine, but even perfect machines occasionally break down. Sometimes you bit down entirely too hard on a hidden stone in your food. Sometimes a tooth cracked. Sometimes, despite the lack of sugar, a rare bacterial infection took hold deep in the root. When you experienced severe, debilitating dental pain 15,000 years ago, what did you actually do? You did not just lay down in a dark cave and wait to die. You invented dentistry. Fast forward to a breathtaking archaeological discovery in the rugged mountains of northern Italy. Deep inside the Villabruna rock shelter, paleoanthropologist Stefano Benazzi was carefully examining a 14,000-year-old human skull. He noticed something highly unusual on one of the molars. The tooth had a large, incredibly precise hole completely carved out of it. When Benazzi analyzed this hole under a powerful scanning electron microscope, the truth was absolutely staggering. The hole was not caused by natural decay. The hole was filled with tiny, microscopic scratch marks. Someone had intentionally, methodically drilled into this tooth using a tiny, sharpened micro tool made of hard flint stone. Your ancestors were actively performing complex oral surgery during the Ice Age. Imagine the sheer terrifying reality of this ancient operation. You have a deeply infected tooth. You have no modern painkillers. You sit on the cold dirt floor while a skilled member of your tribe takes a sharp piece of rock and manually scrapes out the infected, rotting pulp from the inside of your tooth. It would have been excruciatingly painful, but it completely saved your life. By manually removing the infected tissue, they stopped the lethal bacteria from traveling through your bloodstream to your brain or heart. You were tough, brilliant, and incredibly resourceful. But the story of your ancient dental ingenuity gets even stranger. Travel slightly forward in time, about 6,500 years ago, to the beautiful area of modern-day Slovenia. Here, archaeologists unearthed a human jawbone that contained the oldest known dental filling in human history. Your ancestor had a deep, painful vertical crack in their canine tooth. To fix it, an ancient dentist carefully packed the cracked cavity with highly purified beeswax. This was not just a random material they found in the forest. Beeswax has incredible natural properties. It perfectly seals the exposed, highly sensitive dentin nerve layers from air and cold water. It physically prevents the tooth from shattering further under heavy chewing pressure. And beeswax contains propolis, a natural compound that has strong antibacterial and anti-inflammatory properties. You were literally using organic biomechanical sealants thousands of years before the invention of synthetic modern polymers. You were mastering medical science long before you even had a written language. But how do modern scientists actually know so much about the specific bacteria in your ancient mouth? The answer lies in the grossest, most ignored substance in the human body: dental calculus. When you forget to brush your teeth today, a soft, sticky film of bacteria called plaque forms on your enamel. If you leave it there, it eventually hardens into a thick, rock-like substance known as calculus, or tartar. Your modern dentist violently scrapes this off and throws it directly into the trash, but your ancient ancestors never brushed their teeth, so this thick layer of calculus built up over their entire lifetimes. To you, it sounds incredibly disgusting. But to biological anthropologist Christina Warrener, it is the ultimate scientific time capsule. Warrener pioneered the study of ancient dental calculus. She realized that as this plaque hardens into solid rock, it actively traps everything inside your mouth like a prehistoric mosquito trapped in amber. It flawlessly preserves the DNA of ancient bacteria. It traps tiny, microscopic fragments of the food you ate. It holds pieces of ancient pollen from the air you breathed. When researchers sequence the DNA locked inside this ancient fossilized plaque, they can perfectly reconstruct the entire microscopic ecosystem of your ancestor's mouth. This invisible world is called the oral microbiome. For millions of years, your oral microbiome was incredibly diverse and beautifully balanced. You had hundreds of different types of bacteria living in perfect harmony. Some bacteria helped you break down tough proteins. Others actively protected your gums from inflammation. It was a peaceful, highly regulated microscopic forest. So if your ancient teeth were naturally straight, naturally strong, and naturally protected by good bacteria, why are your modern teeth such an absolute disaster? What destroyed the perfect machine? The answer is the single most dramatic twist in human history: the agricultural revolution. About 10,000 years ago, you made a massive, world-changing decision. You stopped hunting and gathering, you settled down, cleared the forests, and started planting enormous fields of crops. You started growing wheat, barley, rice, and corn. You thought farming would make your life significantly easier. You thought a guaranteed food supply would make you healthier. But for your mouth, farming was an absolute apocalyptic disaster. When you shifted from a tough meat and plant diet to a soft, carbohydrate-heavy diet, you completely broke the biological rules of your own body. Suddenly, your food was soft, mushy, and heavily processed. You were boiling grains into soft porridges and baking them into soft breads. You completely stopped chewing hard things. Because you no longer applied massive mechanical stress to your jawbone, your jaw simply stopped growing to its full genetic potential. Your jaw physically shrank, but your teeth did not shrink with it. Your genetic code still commanded your body to produce the exact same number of large, robust teeth. But now, they had absolutely nowhere to go. They smashed into each other. They twisted sideways in the gums. They became horribly impacted and painful. This is exactly why you need expensive orthodontic braces today. This is exactly why a modern surgeon has to slice into your gums and violently pull out your wisdom teeth. It is not because human teeth are badly designed by nature. It is because your modern environment is fundamentally mismatched with your ancient biology. But the shrinking of your jaw was only the first part of the disaster. The second part was microscopic, and it was far more destructive. When you started eating massive amounts of farmed carbohydrates, you accidentally dumped toxic levels of sugar directly into your oral ecosystem. Carbohydrates rapidly break down into simple sugars the moment they touch your saliva. Remember that beautifully balanced forest of ancient bacteria in your mouth? You just flooded that forest with gasoline. A specific aggressive type of bacteria called Streptococcus mutans absolutely loves simple sugars. Before farming, this bacteria barely existed in your mouth. It was a harmless, tiny minority. But when the sugar arrived, Streptococcus mutans violently multiplied and completely took over the ecosystem. It ruthlessly outcompeted the healthy, protective bacteria. It consumed the massive amounts of sugar from your bread and porridge. And as a byproduct of eating this sugar, it excreted highly corrosive lactic acid directly onto your teeth. This acid actively dissolved the hardest substance in your entire body, your tooth enamel. It physically burned holes straight through your teeth. This is exactly what a cavity is. A cavity is not just a random hole, it is chemical acid damage caused by a massive bacterial overpopulation. When scientists look at human skulls from before the agricultural revolution, cavities are incredibly rare, found in less than 2% of all teeth. But in skulls from the first early farming communities, cavity rates suddenly explode. Almost everyone had them. They suffered from chronic, agonizing dental pain. They lost multiple teeth in their 20s. Their gums receded. Their breath smelled awful. And terrible abscesses formed in their jaws. You traded the physical dangers of the wild for a guaranteed food supply, but you sacrificed your biological health to do it. The situation became infinitely worse during the Industrial Revolution. In the 1800s, highly refined, heavily processed white sugar became insanely cheap and available to everyone. Your sugar consumption skyrocketed to levels your ancient body was completely unprepared to handle. The microscopic balance in your mouth was completely annihilated. Your oral microbiome essentially collapsed into a toxic, highly acidic wasteland. Your modern reliance on daily toothbrushing and highly concentrated fluoride is not a sign of advanced health. It is a desperate, artificial attempt to manage an ecosystem that you completely broke. You are fighting a continuous daily chemical war against the soft, highly processed food you insist on eating. But you also lost something else when your diet became too soft. You lost the hidden architectural strength of your entire face. Because your modern jaw does not grow wide enough, it affects the entire structure of your airway. A narrow jaw directly leads to a narrow nasal cavity and a restricted breathing passage. This is a massive reason why modern humans struggle so deeply with sleep apnea, chronic snoring, and mouth breathing. Your ancestors slept peacefully through the night with wide, open airways. They breathed effortlessly through perfectly structured noses. You wake up exhausted because your shrunken face physically struggles to pull enough oxygen into your lungs while you sleep. The way you eat directly changes the shape of the skull you live inside. Some modern dentists are now trying to actively reverse this damage. They encourage parents to feed their young children much harder, tougher foods to intentionally stimulate jaw growth during early childhood development. They are trying to hack your modern biology by mimicking the mechanical stress of the Paleolithic era. They know that you cannot outsmart millions of years of strict evolutionary programming. Your body still deeply believes it is living in a hunter-gatherer world. Your bones are still desperately waiting for the tough, fibrous food that will never actually arrive. So the next time you sit in that terrifying dental chair, the next time you close your eyes and hear the dreadful, high-pitched whine of the electric drill, remember exactly why you are there. You are not suffering because human teeth are inherently weak or poorly designed. You are suffering because you completely changed the rules of the game, and your ancient biology simply could not keep up. You are paying the biological tax for your modern, comfortable, deeply processed civilization. You traded the wild strength of your ancestors for the soft convenience of a supermarket, and you are carrying the silent, aching consequences of that trade right inside your skull. You wake up in the middle of the night. There is a sharp, throbbing pain in the back of your jaw. You have a severe toothache, and now you know exactly whose fault it really is.